I don't know how much time I have left before the noises start again. That's why I need to tell you everything, exactly as it happened. Because no one ever believes me when I try to explain what I heard and what I saw between the walls. It began the night I moved into this house. It wasn't supposed to be anything special, just a cheap rental in an old neighborhood. The kind of place people avoided because the paint was peeling and the floorboards groaned with every step. But the rent was low, and I didn't care about the cracks in the plaster or the smell of damp wood that never seemed to leave the hallways. On my first night, I noticed something strange. I was lying in bed, half asleep, when I heard it, a faint scratching, almost like nails dragging against drywall. It came from the wall right next to my head. At first, I thought it was just rats, or maybe the building settling. But the sound didn't move like an animal would. It stayed in one spot, scratching slowly, deliberately, as if something was testing the surface. The next morning, I pressed my ear against the wall. Nothing. Just silence. I even knocked a few times, embarrassed at myself for being so paranoid. But as soon as night fell again, the sound returned. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Always in threes. Always waiting until I was drifting into sleep. I tried to ignore it for days. I told myself it was pipes, wood shifting, anything but what my gut was screaming, that someone or something was inside. One night, the sound changed. It wasn't scratching anymore. It was breathing. Low, steady, muffled, like someone pressing their face against the wall, inches from where I slept. I remember holding my breath, pressing my body flat against the mattress, praying it would stop. But the harder I listened, the clearer it became. A rasping inhale, a slow, wet exhale. Over and over again. I didn't sleep that night. The next day I pushed my bed away from the wall. I thought distance would help, but it only made it worse. Because now I could hear faint whispers. Not words I could understand, just a cadence, like someone muttering prayers in a language I didn't know. The sound leaked from the cracks in the plaster, curling around the room, no matter where I stood. I wanted to leave. God, I should have left. But the lease was signed, and the landlord swore the house had character. He laughed when I asked if anyone had ever complained about noises in the walls. That night, I turned off every light, sat in the center of the room, and listened. At first, silence. Then the breathing began again, closer, heavier. And then, softly, knuckles tapping from inside the wall, as if asking me to let them out. I should have run, but instead, I whispered back. The moment I whispered back, everything changed. The sounds inside the wall fell silent, as if I had startled whatever was there. For a few seconds, I thought I had finally gone insane, talking to plaster, waiting for an answer that would never come. But then, it responded. Not with words, not with a voice. The wall shifted. I heard the wood inside creak, like pressure was being applied from the other side. Then, slow and deliberate, came a scraping noise, like fingers dragging down the studs. Dust trickled out of a crack above me, drifting into my hair. I stumbled back, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would split my ribs. That's when I saw it. The faintest outline of a face pressing outward, stretching the plaster like skin. A nose, a mouth, two hollow impressions where eyes should be. It wasn't clear, just a suggestion, yet it was enough to freeze me in place. I swear I saw the lips move. I didn't remember crawling into bed. All I remember was lying under the covers, trembling, staring at that bulge in the wall until dawn. When the morning came, it was gone. The plaster looked untouched, as if nothing had happened. But I knew better. Over the next few nights, it got worse. The whispers grew louder, sharper, almost angry that I wouldn't answer again. And sometimes when I walked down the hall, I could hear footsteps behind the walls, keeping pace with me. Always a half-second delayed, as if mocking my every move. I started avoiding that room, sleeping on the couch with the TV on, just to drown out the sounds. But the voices followed. No matter where I went in the house, I could hear them faintly, behind the kitchen tiles, beneath the stairs, inside the ceiling. The entire house felt alive, like it was hollow and full of mouths that whispered my name. One night I snapped. I grabbed a hammer from the toolbox and slammed it into the wall. The plaster cracked, chunks of dust exploding into the air. I tore at it, coughing, desperate to prove I wasn't insane. Behind the first layer of plaster was another wall, older, rotting wood, black with mold, and etched into it, were fingernail marks. Hundreds of them. Long scratches that dug deep into the timber, layered over each other like desperate attempts to claw out. My hands shook so violently I almost dropped the hammer. And then, clear as day, from the other side of that rotting wood, came a whisper so sharp and direct it made my ears ring. "Let me out." I fell backwards, choking on dust, my whole body cold. The face pressed against the cracked wall again, clearer this time, features forming out of shadow and decay, eyes like dark pits locked onto mine. And for the first time, it smiled. I should have run out of that house that night. I should have never looked back. But instead, I stayed, staring at that face pressing against the broken plaster, smiling at me with lips that weren't supposed to exist. I don't know why I didn't run. Maybe it was shock. Maybe it was the way its eyes, those black, endless hollows, seemed to pin me in place. Or maybe, deep down, part of me wanted to know what was hiding between the walls. The whispers grew frantic, dozens of voices layered over one another, all pleading, laughing, crying. Some sounded like children, others like old, broken men. And underneath them all, a single voice hummed a low, guttural tune vibrating through the floorboards. I staggered forward, hammer still in my hand. My breathing matched theirs now, ragged, heavy, in unison. The wall bulged outward, the plaster cracking and falling in chunks until it was clear whatever was inside was pushing harder. "Stop," I whispered, though my hand trembled toward the wall as if guided by something else. And then the wood split open. A hand shot through, gray, withered, long-fingered, the nails sharp like claws. It grabbed my wrist with impossible strength, pulling me closer. I screamed and tried to wrench free, but its grip burned ice into my skin, like it was draining the warmth from my blood. I swung the hammer wildly, smashing the wall, the hand, anything I could hit. The voices screamed in unison, rage, agony, delight, and for a second I thought I'd freed myself. The grip loosened. The face retreated into the shadows. The hole in the wall collapsed in on itself, plaster raining down like ash. Silence. I stood there, chest heaving, dust coating my lungs, staring at what was now just a wall. Smooth, whole, as if it had never been broken. My wrist throbbed with pain, the skin bruised and mottled in the exact shape of that hand. I didn't sleep at all that night. I just sat on the floor, watching the wall, waiting. And now as I'm telling you this, I can hear it again. The scratching, the breathing. Only this time, it's not just in the walls. It's in the ceiling, the floor, the air itself. The house isn't hollow. It's full. And whatever lives between the walls doesn't want to stay there anymore. Because last night, as I lay frozen in bed, I felt its breath. Not through the plaster, but on the back of my neck.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.